Sorry, welcome.
Listen up, councillors, please.
Welcome to the Heritage and Townscape Committee. Today is the 15th of May. The first item on the agenda is to elect a chair. Do we have any nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Simon Mallet. He's not here today, but he has been spoken to, and he does agree with his name going forward.
Okay, does anybody second that?
I can second it.
And if everyone can vote, are you happy with Councillor Mallet? In which case, I believe as deputy or as mayor, you're now.
Oh, right. I'm taking over, am I? I'm glad I came here early then. Well done, South Eastern Trains. All right. Well, good evening, councillors, and welcome to the Sandwich Town Council Heritage and Townscape Committee meeting. In the absence of the elected chairman, I'll take over. Item number 2 is apologies for absence received. Do we have any?
So we have apologies from Councillor Mallet and from Councillor Marie.
Oh, super. Thank you very much. Item number 3 is declarations of interest, and this is to receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda this evening. Do we have any declarations of interest, councillors? No, thank you. That's a nil return. Oh, thank you. And item number 4 is to consider co-optees, and members are to consider up to 3 individuals with knowledge or expertise that will benefit the committee's operation to become co-optees. A decision is required on this. I would like to put forward, if she's not already put forward, I'd like to put forward Carol George as a co-optee. I don't know if anybody else has got that. Councillor Anderson?
I'd like to put forward Keith Heaven.
And did we have any more at all?
Well, I think we should consider, when it comes to the item in my report, as to whether, if we go ahead with my report, we recruit somebody who could help us with
Of course, indeed.
this project.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for that. So, okay, so we have 2 co-optees that have been proposed and seconded. Can we all vote for those co-optees with a show of hands, please? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. Welcome to the committee.
Can I just say something? I actually bumped into Keith Heaven yesterday and consulted with him whether he wished to be co-opted back onto this committee, and he said yes. But I also told him that he shouldn't turn up to this meeting. So I think that's the explanation as to why he isn't here, because I thought we were deciding on the new co-optees.
That's my understanding, that you decide the co-optees at the first meeting, but it's not.
I didn't know that,
No,
so, which is why I asked if there was an agenda, because
Apologies.
it's all right.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Anderson. Item number 5 is minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee. To receive the minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee held on Monday the 8th of April 2024, and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in this agenda. A decision is required on this, and this is attachment number 1. Do we have any questions or queries? Councillor Anderson?
Yes, I'm just having trouble finding this agenda, but as I remember it, the minutes
I brought 2, so.
the minutes mention under formation of a youth forum, HT 04249. It then says, it uses the term tourism forum in the first sentence, so that needs to be changed to youth forum.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Black?
Yes, I think the April minutes say that we should be adopting the minutes of January and March. Unfortunately, the version that I received for the January one is the wrong set of minutes.
Let's see.
Would you like to check under the first item?
Let's have a look.
Now, the full council agreed that there would be an amendment, and we agreed an amended set of minutes, not this one. To which my objections.
Indeed.
And I'm really angry that this has come out again, and it really is not acceptable. I don't know how it's happened, but it is not acceptable.
So we're missing the January minutes.
Well, there should be
Updated January minutes.
Pardon?
You're saying that we're missing the updated
Updated January minutes, yes. So this is just not on.
I will look into that. I'm not sure as to.
Well, I can assure you, it was agreed at the South
It was because I minuted that meeting, I remember, and we did go back and I watched the video and everything, so I'm not 100% sure quite what's happened here, but it can be correct.
So can we bring those perhaps minutes to the next?
I mean, if we have a set of minutes that are correct, I don't want to keep delaying this, but this will be the third time it's come back.
Indeed, indeed. We can't do anything this evening, I'm afraid, Councillor Black, but all we can do is mitigate it by asking them to be brought to the next meeting, I'm afraid. Councillor Tomlin.
Yeah, at HT04246, it says review of action log, it says Councillor G. Tomlin left the meeting. I didn't, till the end. Yeah.
I did read that actually earlier on the train. I wondered what that meant. I thought perhaps you had a.
Perhaps I zoned out, that's the possibility, but I was looking here.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Ducat.
I was just going to pick up on the actions that were dropped into the action log from the last meeting need a bit of a polishing up.
That's
So I'm
fine.
happy to do that.
Yes,
There's only 3 or 4 of them that need to be
I believe is that the next item we're covering on the agenda, is it?
Is the action log, is the
Action
review
log.
action.
Would you like to
Is
set
there-
Would you like to raise your point at the next?
I'd love to.
item?
I'll repeat myself.
That'd be ideal. That would be ideal. Thank you very much for that. So, in consideration of the minutes for April, Monday the 8th of April, with the amendments made, are the councillors happy to accept those minutes? I'm prepared to propose them with the amendment, and Councillor Brickley is prepared to second them. Oh, what is Longley? Joanna Longley. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. All those in favour of the minutes of the 8th of April, please signify.
I will abstain.
4. And any abstentions? And that's 2. Thank you very much. Those minutes are carried. Thank you very much. Item number 6 is a review of the action log, and this is for members to consider the Heritage and Townscape action log, which should have been a part of the papers that were sent to you. Okay, going through those, the items we've got are climate emergency report, Councillor Mallett's look at practical actions. We can't actually comment on that, he's not here. Control. So we'll have to wait till he comes back on that first item. Sandwich War Memorial, it's agreed that the town clerk would contact the contractor around the concerns that the text is not clear on the plaque. A verbal report on progress was shared with the committee meeting in September. It's decided there's no suitable solution to improve the existing plaque. The potential for replacing the plaque is now being investigated.
That's the ongoing.
So that's ongoing. Thank you very much for that.
Could I just ask that we have dates? So when an update goes into the log, could we have a date against it? Because it's difficult to tell whether that's yesterday or
It
No,
is.
yeah.
3 months ago.
Correct.
So
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Tutor. And then street furniture for the Guildhall forecourt. The town clerk has met with DDC to discuss the street furniture on the forecourt. There is a contingency in the project that could be used towards graphics for the shelter and planters. Once it is known that no further spending will be made on highways, Any additional benches, bike racks or bins are out of the scope. Oh, that goes my project up the creek then for bike racks. Further feedback is to be given to DDC by the town clerk following discussion at November's H&T committee meeting. So,
I can request an update
could
for
you?
the next meeting.
Sorry, can I just come in on that one? Because
Indeed.
I asked for this particular issue to go onto the main agenda anyway. I know it's on here, but I sort of think this is unacceptable that we are now so far into 2024 and that actually town council hasn't made any decisions with respect to what the money is, what money there is, or we don't appear to know what money there is to deal with the bus shelter that's out there now. So is the money that's available, which I thought I read somewhere was about £25,000–26,000. That's what's left over from the original budget. So is that money going to be totally spent on the making the bus shelter weatherproof, or isn't it? And if it isn't, or if there's some money over, what else can that be used with? Because we're still waiting for to see whether or not we can put at least 3 planters along outside here. Everyone complains that the Guildhall forecourt does look very plain and drab when it is not, when there's nothing else on it. I know when it's full and it's festivals, it's great, and even on market days, but the rest of the time it is very plain. And there were originally 3 or even 4 planters, and we can progress that, but we can't unless we've got some idea of what you're spending that money on and what's left over, and if we have to find extra money to put the planters there. And I also noticed that, and I'm just going to quote as Councillor Ripley last night was talking about the issues of, we were talking about the issues of signage and the fact that, you know, there isn't really any proper signage towards that shows where the museum is. But actually the 2 planters that were supposed to be there form a barrier between where that roadway is, or that walkway is, and where the rest of the forecourt is. So that at least would say there is a pathway and it leads to the museum and it's safe. So I just think this has been on this agenda for such a long time. I don't understand why.
I think Councillor Tucum.
Yes, so what I was going to say, there was a pre-meeting maybe even 2 months ago with the project manager as was. So we are unfortunately wrapped up in administration and bureaucracy, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, but there is a story still to play out around the end of the project's responsibilities for the forecourt. So there is contingency money there, but the project manager is not able or willing to release any of that money until we get to the point at which he can rightfully say that the project has ceased its responsibility. So any requirements of what we need, and that's why November is quoted in here, is that that's the point at which the project manager can say to the town council, this is the money left over. Now, you sort of drill down a little bit into some of the missing information, which is how much money is there and what's likely to influence it over the next 6 months. On reflection, we didn't ask those questions, maybe we should have done. But that's the path that we have been asked to follow. So anything else that's done for the forecourts has to be out with that contingency money until November, when the project manager is willing to say, this is the money I can hand across, and you can make decisions about how you want to spend it.
So
we've got to wait a year?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a period of responsibility for Dover District Council in terms of that forecourt still. Things could go wrong, and some small things have gone wrong. There's a bin there that needs to be, it's all of that, and the balancing the books, whatever that involves from a DDC perspective, needs to happen at the end of their firm end of responsibility for the project.
yeah, it's called post-project handover.
Yeah.
So it does take a long time to hand
Yeah.
it over into our hands. So we've got to wait until November for that. And Councillor Anderson.
Yes, I'm concerned about the short term because it's, as I understand it, there are some of the old planties which were moved from the old forecourt in the cattle market, I mean alongside Fellowship Walk.
No, but they were moved there by the previous administration, and Councillor French from DGC, and they made that decision one morning and phoned me as chair of Sandwich in Bloom at lunchtime and said, could they do it? And I said no, and I walked round quickly, and they had already got them moved. And that was to stop the guy on the land there from taking any more equipment across that road.
Okay, so that issue, fingers crossed, is resolved. Could we not, as a temporary measure, move those planters back onto the forecourt, which would help with the plane issue?
Well, I'd like to know who they now belong to, because the original permission, before they bothered to phone me, went through to the Rotary Club. And it was the Rotary Club who originally had the planters put out there. We took them over from Sandwich and Bloom with their blessing. They have now taken off the signs. If you look, they've removed all their Rotary Club signs. But they went into dilapidation because the Rotary Club said they would look after them when they were up there, and they never did, including watering them. So I really don't know who they belong to anymore.
But if it were possible to find out who owns them, and even if they own them, would they have to give permission? I don't know. Could they not be removed? I mean,
Well, at least two. I'm sure two of them could be. They could be moved, but I think we'd have to find out first of all who own them, and then start working. You know, and you need not a cherry picking. You need a forklift.
Yes, I know it's a big business, but it would resolve the problem in the short term, or help ameliorate the cleanliness issue.
If they look right, I suppose, on this.
I was just going to say, I've just walked from the station and actually they're quite deteriorated.
Oh, right.
I wouldn't actually want them on the
Okay.
forecourt.
Is that
Yeah.
your point? It was, because I don't think we actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've decided what we want the end look to be. So surely we should start from the perspective, actually, this is how we want it to end up looking like, and then we can look at what the cost of that is, and then we can determine whether we want to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing lots of we need to do more, but I haven't got a clear understanding of what it is we want it to finish with. And as soon as we start doing that, everybody will have their own views, and then we'll probably get into another bun fight. But let's try and get something actually.
The original plan was for steel, which we all sort of didn't, none of us thought was particularly good, but we were overruled there. But anyway,
I think we should hold fast until November, and then in November, when we see if there are any funds available, perhaps we can draw up a wish list of what we'd like to see out there by the Heritage and Tourism Committee. Townscape, yeah.
It's only 3 more meetings away, isn't it? It's only meet every second month.
Indeed, it is indeed. Thank you very much for that discussion. So, Councillor Marie to prepare a report for H&T Committee on the impact of next year's budget if allowing free parking 1 Saturday a month in the STC controlled parking spaces. There's no update on that item?
Actually, for the email, there was an email from Councillor Marie. He has asked that due to family commitments, he will be withdrawing from some of his commitments, so he would like to hand back that particular project on speeding the parking.
Sorry, that might be a slightly different problem. So the project is the project, which is what he took as part of our scoping exercise. Then there's this action, which is 7 months old. I think the question specifically needs to be asked of Councillor Marie whether this is something he wants to pursue or not, because it was his particular idea, initiative.
Well, I think to shortcut the whole thing, because this is going to be our progressive year, I think we should make a decision tonight in his absence. Is anybody else prepared to take on this? Do I have any takers? No. Are the committee prepared to close this particular action point? I would propose that, and Councillor Chuka seconding that. All those in favour of closing this point?
Councillor Marie still has the opportunity to bring a report if he deems it
Indeed.
necessary, and he can have it discussed in that manner.
Thank you for that. Next item is Carol George to share with the committee the work undertaken by the town team previously on the HIPs. And I believe you've undertaken that, haven't you?
I did. I sent it to as many people as I could. The work, the HIP reports that we had, that the chair of town team had, along with the green and the white paper that was written. Yeah, I did do that.
So that action item is now closed and that is now finished. Thank you. Look how well we're doing. The next item, town clerk to contact DDC to establish whether there is progress on the priorities identified in the two consultancy reports produced, Vision for Sandwich and Heritage Harbour and Quay Development. Would you happen to know if there was any update on
I
that?
haven't been given an update for this evening,
Okay then.
but I can.
If you could find out on that one, that would be most helpful. Thank you. Is that some, was that one?
It's very similar.
It's
isn't
very
it?
similar, yes.
So I think we could merge those, couldn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if we could merge those two.
Or
ones.
close.
Is that second one?
It's a bit more extensive in detail.
Yeah, so we're waiting out on that second one on the top of the next paper, aren't we? So
Merge.
I think both of those need to be merged into one
Yeah.
action point
No problem.
and then deferred until the next meeting, please. That's okay. And January the 8th, it's moved by Councillor P. Carter and seconded by Councillor Ripley, and resolved that the town clerk is to follow up with DDC if no update is received in relation to the progress with action and potential enforcement on the Whitefriars Meadow Fellowship Walk. With this one, we did have an update from Councillor Morehouse to say that Dover District Council would not be taking any enforcement action over this, and that was quite, finalised, as it were, like that. I then undertook negotiations with the developer, which I reported back to, I think it was the last full council, and that's a confidential item, so I'm not prepared to discuss that at this meeting. With this item, I believe that this item is now redundant, and we can close this item, so I'm proposing that we close this item.
Second that.
Councillor Tuker's seconding that. All those in favour of closing this item? Thank you, and that is passed. Thank you. March the 11th, 2024, Councillor Black, in conjunction with Town Clerk, to write to Network Rail requesting details why the crossing failure occurred and how communication could be improved between Network Rail, Town Council and residents of Sandwich. And I believe this was undertaken, was it not?
It was. We had a reply from Network Rail. They have offered to come and talk to us, or they suggested this, and I wrote back to the town clerk and said, I think they should come and talk to us because they don't recognise there are 4 of the 5 roads are blocked. But they did explain their procedure for contacting the police, who don't seem to, in this case, have told anybody else. So the issue is with the police. The next item, you need to merge that because it isn't Kent County Council, it's the police that didn't tell anybody.
It
This is an
item.
agenda
It's
item.
on the
Sorry?
agenda. It's
The
on this
network
agenda.
rail is an agenda item, number 8, if you want to discuss it in more detail.
Yeah, indeed, we can. So we'll leave this one outstanding because a meeting has got to be arranged with Network Rail, if that's okay with that one. Thank you very much. Item March 11th, 2024, proposed by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Carter, and resolved for the Town Clerk to write to Kent County Council to clarify the legal status of the right-of-way and to write to Ainsley Court Residents Company to confirm the permission given in 2022 to create a ramp, to see if that's still valid. Did we have any updates on that one? Do you know?
I do not.
You know.
I don't have an update.
Okay.
But I think if you're happy obviously I've now taken over clerking this particular meeting, and if we're happy to review this whole action log, for me to then take away an update, so then we're all on the same page and moving
Indeed,
forward.
that'd
So
be most helpful.
anything that requires an update, I'll chase it
Oh,
and
that's
bring it
super.
back at the next meeting.
So with this one here, it was with KCC and Ainsley Court residents.
Yes.
Just need an answer as to whether the route can still go ahead, please.
If I could just say, I think I did send the town clerk the email address of the director of Ainsley Court Residence Company, but if you need it, I'll send it to you.
Thank you very much, that Councillor Anderson. March 11th, 2024, clerk to invite Susan Beer and Councillor Edward Biggs to the next Heritage and Townscape meeting in April. Emailed waiting a response. I believe, I don't know if you've heard this as well, but they had declined
Yes.
to come. So I'm afraid this item is now closed because Councillor Beer and Councillor Biggs have not deemed to come to our meeting, unfortunately. So I'll close that item there. April the 8th, Councillor Marie to contact parking services to clarify and confirm that no parking tickets be issued for parking in the bays marked doctors. So Councillor Marie obviously won't be continuing with this, and we don't have an answer on this, but it is something that we do need an answer on. So this item here, would it be possible for yourself or somebody in the Guildhall staff to contact
Yes.
parking services and find out about that?
Yes, because the next item actually is to contact BDC regarding the removal of the wording on the parking road, so I'll do both.
Oh, could you do both of those?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. April the 8th, KCT to be contacted to clarify the inconsistent approach with replacing lighting in the town, and I believe the town clerk was going to contact, and we had a discussion on this, so we'd probably need a follow up on that item there, and that's KCC. It would come under the Highways Department, and there's a man there named Luigi, I've forgotten his surname now, but he works under lighting. I could probably get the email address if you haven't got that. Thank you. And April the 8th,
Sorry, is that Neil Baker?
Oh no, Neil Baker's actually the
Highways.
elected councillor,
Oh, okay.
but there's a gentleman, an officer who works for Kent Highways, and I've forgotten his surname, his first name's Luigi, and he's in charge, overall charge of all the lighting for KCC roads. So, but we have to be careful because some roads are actually covered by DDC and some are covered by KCC, so to make sure we're writing to the right person. STC Facebook page to follow the Sandwich Town Business Compass Group and share their link on the STC website. Link the STC Facebook page with the Thursday Market Facebook page.
I know that was something that Jill was working on, so I will again get
Find
an
out
update,
from her, that'd be helpful. Thank you very much for that. And April the 8th, the very last one, Carol George to contact Jubilee Centre. Not sure what for. But
That was with respect to the youth forum, and I haven't written to them because at the moment I'm still, I've made contact with the people from Manwoods, because they talked about a youth forum that they already had set up there, and actually I wondered whether or not that was something they would be prepared to expand on if they've got it there. So they were on their Easter break and then I was on holiday, so we haven't met up yet, but I am pursuing it.
Oh, I see. Thank you very much for that update. That's really useful there. Thank you for that. That's an action to take place there. Item number 7, public participation. 20-minute session is set aside for members of the public to make representations.
Could I make a suggestion, please, that we've got, we change the order slightly. We've got public participation now, but then possibly move item 11 to immediately following it. Otherwise, we've got Mr. Ralston waiting for quite a long time until we finalise the issues there. And I don't know if it's other speakers have got items that are related to later on. It's just really to make it convenient for people.
Indeed.
It's up to yourself, but I think that might help.
Of course, yeah, indeed. So All those in favour of moving item 11 up to follow item number 7, please show. Thank you, and that is agreed. Thank you very much for that. So, 20-minute session is set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting in respect of the business on the agenda. Individual representations should not exceed 5 minutes. Written notice of the desire to exercise the right to speak together with the topic to be addressed must be given to the town clerk prior to noon on the day of the meeting. Assistant Town Clerk, do we have any participants?
Richard Ralph?
Super.
Yes.
Okay. Richard, could I ask you to come up? Christina, where's the best place for Richard to stand?
Well, if Richard prefers not to be on camera, it's probably just here.
If you wouldn't mind Richard just standing addressing the...
Yes, all right.
Yeah, just perfect.
That'd be ideal. Are you okay standing or do you need
No, I'm fine,
a
thank you.
seat at all?
Yes, no, that's
You
absolutely
have
fine.
5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Well, stopwatches start. Thank you very much, councillors, Mayor, councillors. I was asked to come and report on the progress of the Tourism Forum, of which I am chairman. We've had 2 meetings so far, 21st of February and yesterday, the 14th of May. Both were fairly well representative of the interests in the town and elsewhere. There have also been separate meetings by various people with all sorts of other stakeholders, including DDC, Whitecliff's Country, KCC Visit Kent, English Heritage, the golf clubs, the aqua park, cruise ships, coach companies, Bird Observatory, Betts Hangar, and so on. I just wanted to pay tribute, by the way, to the Compass Group, who've been ploughing their own furrow and extremely effectively, so good for them. There are a number of seminal documents that have emerged since the Tourism Forum was set up, which are important, and if you've got any sleepless nights ahead, I suggest you read them. One is the DDC Whitecliff's survey report, which is fundamental to understanding, what sort of tourism we have in Sandwich, what sort we'd like to have or should aim to have, and what are our strengths and weaknesses. Secondly, there's a report which was prepared by Councillor Wiles and team in 2023 for the Sandwich Town Council, but I think was never actually actioned or even necessarily submitted, but it has a great deal of very interesting and important material in it, which I've absorbed and incorporated into the third item, which is a draft tourism strategy, which is rather a comprehensive document which I produced and which can be made available to those who are of a sleepless disposition. A number of very useful ideas have emerged during our 2 meetings, and these are all being taken account of and actioned in various ways. I think it's clear that a consensus has emerged on a number of points. One is that we should be aiming to attract more visitors to Sandwich. It's healthy for the town, particularly for the hospitality and retail sectors. But we need to attract more different types of visitors, especially big spenders and families. Secondly, I think we need to project ourselves and our attractions beyond Sandwich, and that the best way to do that is through the blogosphere or the through the internet. Sandwich isn't just about old buildings, magnificent there they are. There are all sorts of other attractions for young families, for example, and we should be highlighting those. Thirdly, we need to be more active in fostering the links, both real and virtual, between ourselves and all the various other sites and attractions in Sandwich and around the district, in the interests of sort of cross-fertilisation. Fourthly, I think we all understand that the primacy of the virtual internet and so on now as a way of attracting people. That's not to say, so we should be putting a great deal of effort into enhancing our virtual profile, both in the town and more widely, if we're to have any hope of attracting more people. That is not to say that leaflets, maps, guidebooks and so on are not important, especially for people who are not as comfortable with IT, but we should make sure that those get a very wide distribution. I'll come on to that in a second. And fifthly, we need, and the Whitecliff survey showed this, we need to improve our offer and the facilities that we offer visitors here to Sandwich, particularly synchronising shop openings. We need to do something about the public labs, which I know you're seized of, as it were, and we need to improve signage around the town. The next point is, I hesitate to, because I know it's rather a delicate one, to intrude on the question of the location of the Visitors Information Centre. I know that's a matter for Sandwich Town Council. The view of the Tourism Forum, as expressed yesterday, is that it is an important facility, even in an age when most people, or many people, get their information about a place from the internet. It's still important, but wherever it is, it should be a good place and it should be well signposted so that people know where it is. But I think we also came to the view that there are other ways of skinning this cat, that you can have leaflets and all the rest of it all over the town in retail outlets and places, tourist hotspots. It doesn't have to be just focused on one place. There was strong interest in an old idea which has been knocking around, that we should have better information boards, either interactive ones or whatever the opposite of interactive is. I think they call them totem poles and so on. They have them in Dover. I believe there was a proposal that they should be rolled out in Deal and Sandwich, but I think we should certainly have a look at that. And I think those were the points. And then on actions, and I'm very keen that that there should be action coming out of the forum. It should not just be a talk shop. On the strategic level, our mandate was to produce a tourism strategy. I did produce one. It was slightly torn to pieces yesterday, and I take that on the chin because it was rather a bit too all-embracing, I think. But I will recast it so that it focuses more on vision, mission, targets, and progress. So it'll be a shorter document, but a clearer one about what we're trying to achieve. And then on the short-term actions that are underway, one is I mentioned leaflets and so on. Councillor Ripley is leading the charge on this. Have I got a couple more minutes? I'm nearly finished.
Yeah, about 30 seconds, I'm afraid.
I'll be very quickly. She's leading on that. We're going to do a lot of work on improving our internet and social media profile and offering. We should explore the propagation of photographs of Sandwich through social media. We are establishing contact with the Dover Harbour and the cruise ship market. We are in contact with the golf clubs about getting more of the golfers to come to Sandwich. We are in contact with coach companies. We have exploratory contacts with South Eastern Rail about publicity posters and so on. We're looking at renewing historical boards. DDC have a programme to do that. And finally, we are looking at the feasibility of information panels or totem poles. And then in the longer term, 2 more minutes, or 2 seconds only, you will be hearing about a proposal for a promotional video. So I won't talk about it, but we wanted to give that a fair wind. Secondly, in the longer term, we're all very interested in the idea of developing a Sandwich brand. It would be expensive, but it would be worth doing, because that would do more than anything to sort of highlight our profile. And finally, Councillor Ripley's husband, I think, has an initiative underway to achieve World Heritage status for Sandwich, and Richborough, which he says would achieve a generational change for Sandwich, but it would take 5 years at least to do it. So thank you very much indeed. Lots of work in progress. Very glad to be reporting to you on this, and look forward to reporting back positively to you in the future. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you very much for your update, Mr. Ralph. That's
Sorry I overran.
Assistant Clerk, do we have any further party?
John.
John Van.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, if you could
Councillors.
stay there, thank you. And you have 5 minutes
How long's that?
to address the council on your proposal. Thank you.
Okay. It occurred to me that before the forecourt was designed, that Sandwich does not celebrate the fact that we are a sink port. And so at that time, when the designs were taking place, I designed the picture you got in front of you. And I submitted it to Sandwich Town Council, and then I got a good positive response. However, it was going to be, the idea was that it was going to be in the middle of the forecourt, a rather large affair. It never happened, money became short, and then I saw a plan that it was going to be under the arch in that dark wind tunnel. I wasn't very happy about that, but anyway, it was better than nothing. It didn't happen anyway. So after that, I decided that I did want to carry on with the project, but clearly nobody's going to allow us to dig up the forecourt. So I spoke to Councillor Gray, and we came to the conclusion that actually the Quay would be a good place to put it on. So we've located a couple of places on the Quay. The reason for doing this is to educate the people of Sandwich, visitors, school children, students, that what is a sink port? Who knows about sink ports? We all know the name, but we don't actually know, most people don't actually know what it is, why, what it stands for, when it was established, 11th century by the way, for those who don't know. And so I feel there's a lot of opportunity there to, from an education point of view. So this thing is a metre across, and you can see from the drawing that it's done in coloured, 3 different coloured stones, plus the sets, and I had a chat, or a couple of meetings with Carrie at the carving shop in, cat-size carving, and she's come up with ideas of how this can be done. This would be carved, the compass would come in 4 sections, 4 quarters from the place where she gets the stones from, and she would then carve out certain sections and insert different colour stones. You see the blue, you see the red, and the names, Forest of Dean Sandstone, blue pennant. The whole thing is green pennant, which is actually, to me, it looks like grey. She calls it green, call it what you like. It's rather nice. And the red ochre is a sort of dark red, which would be inserted. Now, Councillor Ungerson asked me, would this be a trip hazard? The answer is no. I've checked with Carrie. It will be absolutely flat. It will not be a trip hazard. It will be inset into the pavement in 1 of 2 places on the Quay. The cost of it is £8,750. It sounds a lot, but it takes 2.5 months to carve, and the stone clearly is not cheap either. So I didn't think that was a bad price. Then you've got the cost of installation, so let's call it 10 grand in total. I think it's a great idea to attract or to educate people about sink ports, which, as I say, we don't really celebrate. Nobody really knows very much about it, and we should be celebrating it because we are the most important sink port out of the 5 that exist today. Next to it would be a notice board explaining what the sink ports are all about, and you could then also direct people to the museum, talk about Magna Carta, and also we could do loads and loads of good educational stuff, using the board. And John Hennessy from the Sandwich History Society has agreed to do the text for that, and well, that's basically it, I think. I mean, I hope that you can support this. I hope you can support this. I don't know if it needs to go to full council, does it, for approval? I guess it does.
I'll have to ask that after your presentation. So
What
we do after this.
Well, okay, but could I ask if it needs to go to full council that you preferably approve it, take it to full council, and then maybe go to DDC because it's DDC land. We need 10 grand. Maybe Sandwich can put up 5 grand and go to Dover and say, can you match fund our 5 grand? We got the 10 grand, job done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much.
Well done.
Any other further speakers? Super. Okay then, councillors, you've heard all the public participation. The presentation from Mr. Ralph was really an update of where we are and the ongoing aspects of the tourism forum. The presentation by Mr. Van der Dole, we could make, this committee can make a recommendation to full council if anybody wants to propose a recommendation.
I would propose that. I would like to propose that it goes to full council.
Indeed.
Might I just ask, is this an F&GP or is this a full council?
This something like this.
So that's some because of the
Yeah, we
size.
would need. It would need, because it's not only finance. It's on DDC land, so it's got to be agreed
Okay.
whether it would be, if full council would be happy for it to go ahead. So I would suggest it goes to
Okay,
full
well,
council.
I'll second that then.
Okay then, and all those in favour of this going to full council, please show. That's okay. That's been carried. Thank you very much for that. Oh, did you? Oh, beg your pardon. Sorry, I didn't see that. Beg your pardon there. So one abstention. 5 and 5 for that. Okay. The next item we're going to take will be item number 11. On the recommendation of Councillor Black, so we will continue with the Tourism Forum, item 11, and Councillor Black is to give a verbal update on the Tourism Forum.
Yes, thank you. Well, I think Mr. Russell covered the key points really. We had 13 people at the meeting. It was a very much better meeting than the first one.
Excuse me, gentlemen, could we
Sorry.
have that decent quiet, please?
Thank you.
I think because we had fewer people and we were able to lay it out a little bit better. First time round, we didn't know how many people would turn up, so it worked. I think, in my view, and I think Mr. Roth's view, fairly well. There were a number of things, but in particular, I want to raise the issue that we had a proposal from one of the attendees that we should seriously consider the development of a special video which we could then post on various social media to start getting people to understand much more about Sandwich. Now this is not going to be just architectural heritage. There's tons of stuff about that. This would really be quite a lot of drone footage, but it would be able to include things like the golf courses, like Ridgeborough, like maybe elements of the Stour, as well as the town, how far we go and so on. This group have got a couple of professionals who are professional video makers, and they have access to a CAA registered drone pilot, so we can do that. We can ensure ourselves that it's going to be a quality product, and this really would be able to raise all of the things that sandwiches are, as we talked about, we've got to move away from just looking at the town. We've got to look at a much wider experience. And the downside of that is, of course, none of these things come in free. The estimated cost of this at the moment is about £900 for about a 4-minute video, professionally produced, of course. This then so this would have to be funded somehow, and I do think this has to, whether this goes to F&GP or it goes to the full council, is at the matter. Personally, I think this should be some joint funding. We didn't discuss funding in any detail, but clearly the town council would have to have some input. But also, if the idea is to bring a whole lot of revenue into the town, maybe there's wider things that we can do. Everybody was very supportive of it. The timescales are, if we started very quickly, we could probably have something ready for mid-autumn at the earliest. We're certainly won't get it for this summer, but that doesn't really matter because we're also trying to lengthen the period of time that people come. If you have a wider range of visitors, they're not all going to arrive at the same time when coach parties are doing their thing. So that, I think, was the main thing that came out that has not previously been covered. I think the critical thing is also that, as Mr. Ralph has explained, we really need to get a much wider focus, hence the discussions with the golf courses, with people like, let's look at what we can do with cruise ships, let's bring Aqua Park into it, let's bring the Richmond, because there was one of the senior managers from English Heritage was there as well, who was very enthusiastic about bringing these sorts of things in. So that really is a brief update. We have done some minutes coming out, and if we all agree, I can share them with you once they're approved. I think we're almost at the approval stage, but they were done today. And I think it's an exciting issue. We did talk a bit about the location of the Tourist Information Centre, but I had said very specifically in the papers that went out, that is an STC matter. We did not want to set more hairs running. So I think that's been covered. A lot of debate about how much you should go into electronics and more up-to-date communication methods and how much you should use old ones. And there was a long, hard debate because approximately 80 to 85% of people have smartphones. That leaves a very large number of people who don't. And currently looking at the kind of people that are coming to the town, a significant number of them may not have.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that update report. So I think one of the main items from that report is obviously the production of this video. So as that is a more of a yes or no answer, I'm suggesting proposing that goes to the F&GP committee, because it is just a matter of the finance being raised for that matter. Councillor Tudor.
So, I was at the meeting. The first thing I wouldn't do is discount the enthusiasm around the idea. However, I wasn't completely convinced about the actual return on investment, albeit £900. There is a video already out there that was produced in the past by DDC.
Indeed, up there. Mrs. George sent me a copy of that.
Yeah, and if we're saying we're in a problem now because we haven't got the tourism, and there was a video, what difference did that video make to where we are today? So, and the second thing I was going to say, that the presenter of the idea didn't say that it was an automatic fait accompli that the town council should pay for it.
Yep.
In fact, he was promoting an idea that funding from elsewhere could quite easily be achievable. So I wouldn't want us to dive straight in and say, actually, let's look at this and pay the money, because I'd want to be convinced about the value to the town council, to the town, and that we're actually filling a gap that can't be filled elsewhere. So that I'm just caveating the principal idea is great, but it's been done before, and refreshing it is important, because when you look at the old video, which I did today, a lot has changed. Even in a historic town.
Councillor Black first and then Councillor Ripley.
Yeah, yes, we did talk about funding, and there could be a number of sources. I think the Tourism Forum would be a little bit surprised if nothing came from the Sandwich Town Council. That's a personal opinion, but by no means all of it, which is why I said a number of sources. The contribution might be very modest. The second thing that Terry was actually saying is that he would want to have get some very good statistics about the actual number of hits that we're getting, and start comparing it to revenue streams that various people are getting. What happened before the video? What happened after the video? And I think that is part of the point that Councillor Tudor has said. Well, we need some evidence that it actually works, and that was very clearly made by the presenter. Now I can share the paper, and if it's going to go to F&GP, when's the next F&GP? Next week, is it? Have I got time to get the paper to you?
So 3 clear days before, when's it this week?
Yeah, sorry. I
Sorry, I
haven't got
my
my
list of
dates.
dates.
Okay, I'll get paid to you tomorrow.
Yes.
We haven't had a chance to do anything. This is the straight pay, proposal for Terry Marr, and it's completely unredacted or anything like that. But that's the point he was making. We need good hard evidence, and because all too often things have happened and there's been no proof. And I accept the point that you're making, Councillor Chuka, that is it really good value for money? The meeting thought it was. They didn't quite agree to who we're going to stump up the cash.
Exactly. Thank you very much for that update, Councillor. And Councillor Ripley?
Yeah, I'm very much in favour of this video, and I think £900, even though I very much doubt whether the council would have to stump up the whole amount, is an insignificant amount for the potential. You know, as Councillor Shuker has said, the old video is old, it's outdated. This one would be a very modern approach to it, encompassing all sorts of different areas of Sandwich and the surrounding area. And, you know, we can't get evidence of whether it works or not until it's out there. You can't prejudge these things. So I think it's a jolly good idea. And I also think we need to start moving on stuff so that we constantly procrastinate, put things off, defer, delay, what have you.
Yeah.
Actually, we need to do stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this is a very good way
That's
of
right.
adding to that.
My proposal, just so everybody's aware, my proposal, this committee is not able to commit any funds from the council, but the Finance and General Purposes Committee of course could. That's why I put that proposal forward. Councillor Anderson and then Mrs George.
Yes, I think I'm in favour of a new video. I'm not absolutely convinced because I take Councillor Shuker's point that there's been a video in existence and we're not clear as to what its impact has been. However, if we do a new video, I think one of the developing features of Sandwich is an eating destination and also as a shopping destination. It's quite clear we're turning into a rather she town in terms of the kinds of choices that are available for eating and their quality, and also in terms of the shops that exist here. And I looked very quickly at that video this afternoon, and I don't think there was any reference to consumption, you know, consuming stuff, eating and buying.
Indeed, I watched it myself this afternoon, and you are correct, Councillor. And finally,
Yeah, just very quickly, there is some evidence because it's over 4 years old, maybe much longer. 12,500 views in that time, so that's not very big in the world of the internet. And my issue isn't about the quality, because I'm sure we would get a quality product. What I'm not convinced about is why somebody sitting in Solihull or Bridlington would want to look at Sandwich video. That's just my point, is it's stepping up to that marketing outwards, and 12,500, that's 3,000 here maximum.
Indeed. Mrs George was next, because
Yes,
I promised.
Actually, I think there were a couple of issues here. One is that the 900 could be reduced by 200
Yeah.
if we can persuade DDC to get.
You're right, I didn't go into the detail though, but you're perfectly correct.
And also he was saying that maybe there would be some businesses who would
Yes.
benefit longer term, so
Yeah.
it may not be as much as that.
No,
But £900 to me
It's not a lot.
is not an enormous amount of money. I think the issue here comes with when you've got this video, and it should be an all-encompassing video, as we said, we need to be sure that it is pushed out. And I think it's the pushing it out and making sure it is reaching Hull or whatever, that it is reaching all of those places. I think their evidence seemed to be that more and more people who want to visit somewhere sort of go online and then they look at YouTube and they look at all these things now, which is not something that used to happen, but now that's how people prepare for their visits. Sandwich. So I think there's a dovetail here because I'm really keen as well, very keen, and I know it's expensive, but I'm really keen for us to get branding. Because if you know what the branding is, then actually, to my mind, this is where the video is supported, and they will tell you where that would go. Now, this is expensive, but I actually think it should also be explored. We should certainly go ahead with this video, but I also think at the same time we should explore where we can get branding, how much it actually costs, and what the benefits of that really is. I mean, if most of the companies in the country and the world use branding, then they must be doing something right.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. George. And finally,
Yes,
Councillor
yes, I was only able to go to a short part of the Tourism Forum meeting last night, but one of the areas, and I don't know if it was discussed, which I think probably has more impact than a video, is a newspaper article listing Sandwich as one of, say, the top 10 medieval sites in the country to visit, and I'm sure we would fit that. And you know, if we have to pay a journalist to come and do that kind of work, I know newsprint is going out of fashion at the rate of knots, but once you get an article into a newspaper, it's then on the internet, and will turn up. If you Google Sandwich as a place to visit, you would find it. So I suspect that would have rather more impact than a video that goes out of date.
just on that point, sorry, before we continue, yeah, it's actually more to do with social influencers. So my daughter's in this line of business for the independent newspaper, and hers is purely electronic, which is the major lion's share of their sales.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we say invited a load of social influencers here, these social influencers have got 2.2 million followers.
Exactly.
If they put something online and say, guess what, the other day I went to Sandwich and I had a fantastic time, you're instantly hitting 2.2 million people online like that. So, but the concept, the idea is a very good idea, and I do agree with that. You would have to pay the social influencers to come, so there may be a comparable cost. So. Councillor?
Well, yeah, no, I was just going to say, following on from Councillor Robinson's remarks about an article, you know, that's when the video would come into its own, surely, because once people see the name Sandwich, people in Solihull, wherever, they would then, you know, then you look things up online, don't you? That's what triggers the interest, and so I think the video is a good idea.
Okay, so as the chair, I put forward a proposal that to take this to F&GP so that the finance side of it could be reviewed as to whether Sandwich Town Council could put up some or all of the money. Was there anybody to second that proposal at all? Okay, Councillor Black went first, I think. And all those in favour of this idea, please put your hands up and show. Okay. That's it. Is that for or abstaining?
I'm putting my hand halfway up.
Oh, right.
No, I'm abstaining.
We'll take that as one abstention, but that item is passed. And not to procrastinate, if F&GP say that there is the money available or something like that, then it could go ahead quite quickly then. So, but obviously it's not for this committee to decide the finances. So. Thank you very much for that discussion, councillors. You okay? You're up to speed. That's great. Thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Ralph, it's obviously your prerogative, but if the rest of the meeting you didn't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're at liberty to depart at any time that you wish. Okay. So now we've done
well,
the.
I will start with your permission. Thank you very much. Could I just, as a point of clarification, I understand there is no right for a member of the public to participate in a discussion, because there were some points in this discussion about the promotional video which I would quite like to have made some observations about, but I gathered I held that because I'd assume you can't.
Your best option, you can't participate from the public gallery, but your best option would be, this will be going on to the next F&GP meeting, and there would be public participation there, and you'd be more than welcome to give 5 minutes presentation at that on this
Okay,
particular
I mean, I
item.
didn't want to disagree, but I just wanted to add some glosses to some of the
Oh, indeed.
observations, and quite a few of the ideas are ideas that are very much on our agenda.
Indeed,
Thank
I
you.
would very much welcome you to attend the Financial and General Purposes Committee. I'm sure the town clerk or the assistant town clerk could
Thank you.
notify you when that will occur.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Thanks
you
a
very
lot.
much. Thank you.
Many thanks.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Good evening to you. Okay, so now we're moving on to item number 8, which is Network Rail Level Crossing. Members to review the correspondence sent from the clerk to Network Rail, dated and response dated the 30th of April 2024. This is attachments 3A and 3B, and a decision is required on this. I don't know if we've actually preempted this because we've already discussed this and said that obviously we would welcome, is it Mr. Stevenson, Harry Stevenson, to come and join us here at the council at a meeting. So would somebody like to put that forward?
Harry's the public affairs person. You actually might want the regional manager who's the operator, because Harry's not the technical guy.
No. That's right.
There are two people there that are particularly important. One is there is a level crossings manager who covers this whole district.
Indeed.
And there's also what used to be called the area manager, now called the regional manager. But it would be up to Network Rail to decide who the best person was. I mean, Harry would come along, he's very helpful.
Indeed.
But I really think it's important that they come to explain to us, but also we can make the point and show them, look, we have one road left,
Exactly.
which was going across the toll bridge.
Exactly.
And even Councillor Chandler was complaining she got stuck in the town, she couldn't get out either.
Exactly. And I think the more prominent issue on this matter is, from my point of view, is emergency vehicles
services.
coming either into or out of the town.
Or trying to go through.
Indeed, that's what I'm saying. So I think that's you know, that aspect for me is very important. You know, if there was an incident at Sir Roger Man's school, which is enclosed by the railway, then there would be a grave issue there. So, Councillor Anderson.
Yes, I mean, this letter, the response from Harry Stevenson, also mentions the important role of the police. And I'm wondering whether should we be able to set up a meeting, whether there should also be a police officer who looks after, I don't know, traffic or traffic control.
Probably want a control office, somebody from the Central Police Control Office. It certainly wouldn't be sort of someone like Rob.
No,
No, it wouldn't. No, it would have to be something much more senior.
that's a good idea. That's something to consider. Councillor Tomlin.
Yeah, also in the aspect of major incidents, you know, there are a multi-agency group
They do.
who plan and meet in terms of major incidents, and maybe it's worth flagging up to them in terms
That's
of.
right. Yeah.
Is this the Kent Resilience Forum?
It's Kent Resilience Forum. I know the chair of it actually.
Because I imagine they've got an at-risk register. That's how most large organisations work,
They
and
do.
whether it actually is on there,
They
you know,
do
to make sure it's
actually,
flagged up for them.
Yes.
Indeed, yeah.
Mm.
So that's a good idea. So if possible, could we invite the a technical or area manager from Network Rail, if possible, a representative of Kent Police Constabulary to do with roads and transport, and quite possibly, just trying to remember his name now because I used to work with him, the chair of the, it's called Kent Resilience Forum as well, if he would be prepared to come along, because I think this matter is no mean matter and it should be addressed thoroughly. And although I wasn't actually in the town on the day that this happened, the implications of it ever happening again are quite scary, I think, and we need some strong clarification on this. So all those in favour of inviting these to the next meeting, please.
So just to clarify, you would like to invite them to the next Heritage and Townscape meeting, or would we like a separate meeting?
Yeah,
solely about?
No, I believe bring them to the Heritage and Townscape. This is where we're discussing it, and I think that's important to bring it here, not to clog down the full council.
Not for, I would have thought this is so important that this is beyond heritage and townscape. This is the safety of, and the operation of the town. It's your decision clearly, but I would suggest this is town council.
Okay,
Or
those
alternatively,
indeed.
it could be a pre-meeting before Heritage and Townscape,
could be.
extended
It
to
could
include
be,
all
yeah.
councillors as.
Yeah,
Another way to
and
cut
I
it.
think Councillor Tuker's actually got the money on the nail, because what I'm trying to do, Councillor Black, is I promised that I wouldn't have very long or lengthy
Yeah.
town council
That's
meetings. So I don't want to have like 20 minutes on this issue in a council meeting when we've got, say, 24 agenda items.
Yeah.
But pre-meeting sounds
Whichever
like
way you do it.
I'm a bit anxious about pre-meetings because they're not open to the public, and I do think the public should be, and similarly they're not videoed at the moment, and there's nothing in standing orders about the relationship with pre-meetings to public reception. So,
yeah.
so that just makes me slightly ill at ease.
So
about
we
pre-meeting.
could, if we felt it was necessary for this pre-meeting. So pre-meetings are not meetings of the council, so that's why they aren't within the scope of
Exactly.
standing orders. However, if we felt it was necessary or of value to have it filmed, we as a council should film it. Or alternatively, also we should allow it to be filmed.
Yeah,
And
indeed.
you might want to allow members of the public also to ask any questions. This is, for some people, this is an emotional issue. To railmen, it's one of the nasty things that happens in life.
I think, sorry, just to go forward with this is a meeting between Sandwich Town Council
Yes.
and agencies.
Agree.
It is not a public forum.
No.
We have all been elected for the well-being and safety of the people that live in this town, and that falls upon our shoulders to undertake that.
Yeah.
I think that's what this should be. So pre-meetings are usually half an hour or less.
Yes.
But if you're going to include members of the public, I think we're going to have a completely separate scenario, because it could go on for an hour or more. Now, I'm quite happy to propose that this goes as a pre-meeting to it wouldn't be this month's, but to June's full council meeting, if that was agreeable with the committee.
I would suggest for next Heritage and Townscape, just to honour your commitment about not expanding the commitment at STC, because it will just then become a very long evening. But it will be open to other councillors to attend.
Indeed.
And if we feel it necessary, feel it of value to also allow it to be filmed, then we should have it filmed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
So that's been passed. Thank you. So,
I don't know if we got a proposal and a seconder for that.
I put the proposal forward,
No,
so
sorry.
Councillor Black seconded it. Thank you.
And,
And we
no,
did vote on it.
No, I saw
And-
it.
and Harry-
Just,
Harry has said actually contact him
yes,
because he will get a team coming.
yes.
We don't need to specify who the team is. That's their prerogative.
Indeed, that's correct. So, thank you very much for that. So, okay, that's super. Item number 9 is disability and access working strategy working group. Members to consider the proposal from Councillor Anderson to merge the disability access strategy working group into the Heritage and Townscape Committee. This is attachment number 4, and the decision is required on this. I would like to lead on this and just say that I think this is an excellent idea. Work as we had actually mentioned previously in the previous council year, working groups should be for a short, limited time to address a particular issue. This working group has been going, as far as I'm concerned, for over a year, and it's not addressing one particular issue. So, from my point of view, I would like to carry forward Councillor Anderson's recommendation, amalgamate it into the Heritage and Townscape Committee, and any commitments outstanding from that working group, such as the Ainsley Court ramp, can then be brought forward to this committee, still discussed and hopefully still taken ahead. So that's my proposal. Councillor Tucker, what's your proposal?
I have two issues.
Oh, indeed. Yeah.
So firstly, the terms of reference for the working group actually states that it reports into the full council, so it has to be the full council that makes that decision. So we can't make it.
Okay.
Secondly, one of the key aims of the working group was about engaging with people with disabilities, so they had a voice. And what I mean by that is an actual input to the decision-making process. I'm just worried that subsuming it into the much broader heritage and townscape is a loss of that. So I would want to be convinced how that will be protected, because if it becomes just an agenda item, it's going to be very difficult to allow and enable people to have that input, in my opinion. So that's an important factor for me, to have that influencing factor.
Oh, sure, yeah. We would make the recommendation that would go forward to full council, that this would take place. So this would be a recommendation in the minutes of this meeting. So what I was proposing was that this meeting would make a decision on that, and that would be taken through to full
Can it
council.
do that under governance? Because if the working group reports into the full council, shouldn't it? Can it go via circuitous routes?
I'm not sure. I'd have to
I
get clarification on that.
think you could agree that you would think it's a good idea, and then when it's discussed that Heritage and Townscape were happy to
Yes,
keep
As a
exactly.
recommendation. As a recommendation, yeah. So, okay, I think Councillor Anderson was first.
I would like to explain about this working group. It was set up by the town team, basically, or a recommendation to the council from the town team, because I, as a member of the town team some years ago, produced a report working with somebody who uses a mobility scooter on how difficult it is to get around the town, and it was that reflected my own experience of caring for my mother when she was still alive, well, obviously when she was still alive, who was in a wheelchair and trying to get around Sandwich. So that was what promoted my passion to get this town much safer for disabled people. And it was adopted by the town council. The reports that I made with Chris Elvin, who uses a mobility scooter, they were adopted by the town council in, I think, 2022, and taken ahead by Tony Broom, who was at that time, I think he was deputy mayor, and he chaired one meeting of the working group that was set up. He then resigned as one of the four councillors that resigned in November 2022, and on election at a by-election in February, no, it must be 2021, he resigned in 2021, and in February 22, four councillors were elected, and I was one of them. So at that point I said, I'd like to take over the Disability Access Working Group and get this going, and it worked for a while. Councillor Chandler and Councillor Friend attended, and that was very helpful. And Chris Elvin also attended. And we did get one thing done, which was making Seven Post Alley and Milk Alley much easier to get through, because with a bar across it was impossible. And that has actually made a substantial, it was a very cheap thing to do, but I can't tell you how troublesome it was to get it done, and extremely effective. So that was a very efficient thing to do. We got stuck with Ainsley Court, and at that point, Councillor Chandler and Councillor Friend basically disappeared. But we did get permission from the residents' company to install a ramp. And I did manage to get a budget to do that, though whether the budget will be large enough remains to be seen. And then things trundled along, and I began to tremble. I have to admit that I began to tremble. In order to get things done It's not just a question of setting up a committee to get things done. You have to have people who are highly motivated to get things done, and things began to fade away. So, and my own passion began to fade away, I admit. Since May 23, when the nature of the council changed entirely, given how much pressure there was on work and so on, I felt I couldn't hard pedal this working group. So I'd rather soft pedal, and that it is my responsibility, I think, that it should be laid at my door that we have only met once. At that meeting, I did say that I no longer wished to chair because I felt it needed some new blood and some new passion. But nobody came forward to chair. It was agreed that we should do a walkabout as a working group within the town, both Sandwich North and Sandwich South. And I wrote suggesting some dates, got I think one response. So at the moment it's not functioning properly, but there has to be some way of getting it going again. And it seemed to me that bringing the Ainsley Court ramp to this committee, which I did at the last meeting, I think it was the last meeting or the one before, would be a way to get that going. And I now that we have this system, and I hope it will be retained by the new chair, of having councillors take responsibility for individual discrete projects, which I hope will make Sandwich a better and more pleasant place to live and to visit. I can see that the ramp is the project that I would like to take forward. And then in terms of having disabled people having an input, as part of that project, I would try to set up a public meeting. I have to say that Mr. Elvin is no longer fit enough to come to meetings, and that is a feature, obviously, of people with disabilities. And I have tried to find other people who have to get around this town in wheelchairs, and I've talked to them, and none of them are interested in coming to this group. So that's also very unfortunate. Mm-hmm. But we are an ageing community. All of us get older, and you know we can think about how we ourselves will cope, or the people that we know already who have problems getting about, how they cope with moving around Sandwich and what the problems are. So I don't think another suggestion that I think would help is if we could co-opt somebody, say from Age Concern, from the dementia section there, because dementia is obviously a disability. And I would like this town to become much more dementia friendly than it already is. So there are things that can be done within the framework, I think, of this committee.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Anderson.
Just quickly to respond, so if it does go forward, we need to recognise in terms of reference to this committee, we'll need to change also.
No, they won't, because we already are responsible as a committee for disability. It's actually mentioned.
In what way?
Well, I put it in my report.
Sorry, I did read your report, it's not that I didn't read it. It says,
it is part of the terms of reference of the Heritage and Townscape Committee, quote, to consider mobility issues within the town, including the safety of roads and pavements, dropped curbs, cycle provisions, and pedestrian and cyclist
Excellent.
space.
So what I would like to do is to somehow protect the profile of what the working group, because in many respects it wasn't a working group in the true sense. It was there as a group.
It was set up before the working group terms of reference.
It was a specific issue. It was an issue group in terms of dealing with that. So somehow we just need to recognise the importance of it, Claire, so that we bring it in,
yes,
but don't subsume it so much that it just becomes.
But it's I mean, in terms of reference of this committee, it absolutely fits, just as tourism does, and we're treating tourism with proper seriousness, as we should, and I suggest that we should and can treat disability and mobility issues in the town
And I think if we set this up as part of my proposal would be that it is a regular agenda item. So item number 10 would be disability for the town. So if we assume that it would be a regular item, and that we would continue any of the works that the working group has already started, such as Ainsley Court, in that, then hopefully that's right. Carol George and then Councillor Black.
I think that my concern about the working group is that it does continue. Working groups are sort of these 6 months. This is not a 6-month job. This is several years, and it will be constant. And when I know the work that, Councillor Iverson has played that down a bit, but I know how much work went in there and how she had to beg, borrow and steal to get anything done in a timely way through KCC and DDC. There was a lot. It was constantly being stumbled. There are things in the original report that need to be followed through, but they are demanding. There's also the money issue that comes from KCC for things like drop curbs. It was why I brought it up at the town meeting, because £2,500 to drop one curb is crazy, and even if they agree it at KCC, it comes back to STC to pay for it. So I believe it is a really important area. So my concern would be it was not just a working group that were going to be here for 6 months and things had to be solved. I think this is going to take a long time, a lot of pressure, an awful lot of work that will go into seeing all of this through and just acting on the initial report. I mean, it sounds odd just to say a ramp at Ainsley Court. That's only one small fraction of what was trying to be achieved to get disabled people from the Quay into the town. So
I didn't mean any disrespect.
No.
What I was saying was whatever work that has already been started would be carried into this committee, and then this committee would continue to look at disability issues. And as Councillor Anderson said herself, we could also co-opt somebody from Age Concern with specific, expertise in that.
So Claire, are you offering that certainly in the interim, for an amount of time, for whatever length that is, that you would still champion?
Yes, well, in the same way as individual councillors are champions.
I'm just trying to protect the whole thing.
Cyclists or
and I think bringing to the committee actually gives it that.
Yes.
That's that level of importance in the working group.
I have to say I've been quite subtle about that. The doctors' parking spaces I haven't mentioned, because actually those 2 spaces are part of the strategy of developing a pathway through.
Yes, they are.
So because we were proposing the pathway would take 2 spaces away, and the only way to compensate local residents was to get those doctors' spaces, which is why. And I haven't actually said that's why I'm so keen to get those doctor spaces removed.
Councillor Black is
I don't think we should be disbanding this. I think the issues are great, they're long term. To bring them to this committee will just extend the agenda of this committee to some great lengths. And if we have any meetings in here, disabled people find it impossible to get in. This is not the way to do it. I'm sorry, I disagree fundamentally. And I don't also see this point about reduction in the number of working groups should lead to more efficient use of Guildhall staff. I ran a working group with one of the busiest ones in the county. We got no input from Guildhall staff. Working groups don't need Guildhall staff. I'm sorry, that's a fundamental point. I know of another major committee, working group that doesn't use Guildhall staff. We don't need to do it this way. This is a very different kind of organisation. There are longer term issues, and I think trying to bring people in here, it's just going to get pushed to one side, and I don't think that's the way to do it.
That's fine, Councillor Black, that's your opinion, so that's fine. If my proposal fails, you can put forward another proposal, if that's okay. I'd like to move on, so if we haven't got any more speakers, I have put forward a proposal proposal that we adopt, and just hasten to point out that the items that have been said have been put forward by Councillor Ungerson, not by myself or the Guildhall staff. This is Councillor Ungerson's proposal that I'm prepared to put forward as the chair. Do I have a seconder to take that forward? Thank you very much, Councillor Ripley. And those in favour of bringing it to this committee, please show by hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. And those abstaining, that's 1. And those against, that's 1. So I'm afraid that proposal has actually been accepted and it will be adopted by this committee with the amendments that we've said. So there's got to be a regular agenda item on this committee for it, that we've got to look towards approaching age concern for some expertise, and
it needs to be taken forward to STC to be
ratified. Indeed.
And will you be considering a different venue for the meeting and to allow for disability access?
Indeed, that's a very good, very good point.
I mean,
possibly the hub.
this is illegal actually, that we have to go up these stairs. I mean, and in fact, I myself experienced difficulties because I had a pacemaker and it wasn't functioning properly, and getting up those stairs was, for a number of meetings, really very, very hard. And the only legal way is through the jury.
So can I just, reacting to that, I think it's important, if we are going to get endorsement from STC to take that ownership within this committee, I think we should be very clear about holding the future meetings of this committee in the hub. Because if not, it is quite farcical that we say we are the champions of disability issues, and then we hold it in a non-accessible room.
Thank you for making that point.
Thank you for that. So,
Yes.
okay, that item has been passed, so thank you very much for that. And hopefully with the items, the amendments that we're making, it will not be just amalgamated, merged or forgotten. It will be a regular agenda item, so every single meeting it will come up and something will have to be progressed or taken forward. We could actually invite guest speakers to come along and speak on it, so if that's okay. Okay, that's item number 9. Item number 10 is scoping documents, and due to the time that's actually elapsed now, what I would ask is that if anybody has any updates or amendments that they wish to bring to this committee, I would ask that they bring them to this committee. We've all had the paperwork to read through them. Most of them have dates that are towards the end of the summer or perhaps the autumn or what have you like that. So there's not actually pressure that they should be delivered this evening. But if anybody has any updates, then I would be pleased to hear those updates, starting with Councillor Ripley.
Well, just very briefly, only because we're holding a drop-in session in the hub, Guildhall Hub, on Saturday, May the 25th, from 9 till 1 o'clock, which is open to everybody, but basically it's mainly for holiday let owners or potential owners, really to update them on current legislation and proposed legislation which may be coming into force next year, other rules and regulations, so that nobody has any problems with any of these when things come into force, and potential mandatory registration comes into force as well. So it's really just an updating for holiday let owners, and so that's on the 25th. Whether we get many people coming is a different kettle of fish, but we have been posting leaflets through all the doors of the identified holiday lets, thanks to a lot of help from colleagues and people in the town, and putting posters up around the town, and I've had help from the from Chloe actually, devising a poster that will go up and point people to the hub on the actual day. Whether people take it on board or not is entirely
Yeah.
in the realms of. But it's there for people to make the most of. So, and also we have handouts about what the new provisions will be and the rules and regulations.
I brought you a bit of homework. On the train back, I was reading the Evening Standard, and there is an article in here to say that Westminster Council has had enough,
Yeah,
and they cannot cope
mind
with the
you.
number of Airbnb properties in the Westminster Borough.
But I think they thought a lot of those were brothels, and I don't think we have too many of those in Sandwich, but I'm
No,
not sure.
indeed.
So yeah, we're probably looking at a different.
Lovely.
Different aspects of that. Thank you very much for your update. Councillor, over to Councillor Anderson
Yes.
and then Councillor Tudor.
One of my projects was consultation with DDC Home Insulation and Conservation of Grade 2 listed properties. We've done that, we failed, and so I think that should be.
Oh, indeed, yeah. So that was consultation about home installation in conservation area. So that one will be amended and removed. So thank you. Thank you very much. And Councillor Tudor.
A specific point and a general point. So on the specific point, I've had to re-profile my end date. So I want to be in line with everybody else, apart from Councillor Ripley, who's best in class. So I'm going to take mine to the end of the summer, simply because I've had to pause it for the last couple of months. I've been involved in quite a number of other things for the council, including the Saturday market and also demands outside of work. So work outside of the council. So I'm going to give it to the end of August now as the end date, but with a fair wind, end of July may well be done. And then the general point is, we actually have got a number of projects on the list that we really need to revisit regards ownership, progress, or are people not here. So it would be sensible maybe at the next meeting for everybody to be forewarned and forearmed to give a good update, because that gives 2 months now to make some real progress.
So that's Councillor Tudor's one. Has he got copies? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So that needs an amended update. And then Councillor Black.
Community transport, the tourism for has taken up so much time that I've not been able to progress this. I did have some contact from Councillor Marie and also Councillor Chandler, which I've not had a chance to follow up. I did go to an online session. I think we are talking quite big bucks, because even Bridport, that's been running a bus about 3 days a week, is having to pay $20,000 a year for this, and I don't think we're even anywhere in that league. Sometime I would like to go and see how they're doing in Faversham, but they were struggling already to get volunteer drivers. That's the only way you can keep the cost down. I will be going to see Cross Keys coaches and get some idea of costs would be, but they of course are a profit-making organisation, and we know that Kent County Council withdrew any funding for this, but I haven't had a chance to speak to them. I need to pick up Councillor Chandler's invitation to talk to somebody there, but I'm going to have to shove this back to November.
Of course, okay. So that's, we've got that one.
Can I just add something? I mean, I always had in mind that this was basically a feasibility project, and it's beginning to sound as though it's not feasible, but I'm very grateful that you have explored all these different avenues. I mean, it would be wonderful, but
Let's see what comes out at the end of the term. Thank you very much. I don't know if there was any more updates. I think my one, quite luckily, I put quite a lengthy date on it because I've been undertaking mayoral type things. So like Councillor Tudor, I've been rather busy. I'm drafting a report at the end of summer, so mine will remain as it is. Thank you. I would like to propose that we ask the Assistant Town Clerk to contact Councillor Marie and could you confirm whether Councillor Marie would be going ahead with either of his projects?
I think that's what he was referring to earlier, that I had mistakenly thought was the other, and in that he can no longer carry those forward.
Carry those forward. So we need to actually recognise that those will be closed down then.
Well, unless
Sorry,
somebody else
I mean, speeding in the
Yeah.
I don't think we can assume that we should just close it down. We've got to
Yeah.
we've got to pursue it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, what I'm saying is my actual detailed aspect of this is Councillor Marie has approached the council and said that he has got problems and that he'll be taking a sabbatical from a number of committees.
right.
This is being undertaken by Councillor Marie,
Yeah.
so unless this committee designates somebody else to take these on, it will have to be picked up by another committee. That's what I'm saying. So,
By another councillor from
yeah, that's yeah.
So what I would propose is if we are going to do a proper review at the next meeting, we should also discuss that and just prepare ourselves just to have a conversation about that project and how it might be either dissected and the key parts taken forward, or alternatively we say actually none of us can do it. So we just need to not, rather than just say it's now gone, I think we should reflect on what was included.
Oh, indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. But I think what we should also be mindful of is there's a number of other organisations. The town team is I believe it's on your agenda every
yeah,
month.
it's always on the agenda, but I think it's become an issue that really the council also have to help lead with this, because whatever we recommend or deal with, it still comes back to Sandwich Town Council to take that forward, unless we do what we did with the green and the white paper, which is find a friendly officer at KCC, but we still have to obviously come back to Sandwich Town Council and then Dover District and then.
That's right.
So I mean, we won't drop it, but it really is a key issue, I think, in the town.
Yeah. Although it's not on the agenda, the two other matters that I was going to mention are the same as yourself, Mrs. George, is that first of all there will be, it got delayed, I think, I can't remember why, but the HIP, the discussion of the HIP got delayed, so we were going to have a HIP meeting and then unfortunately that got delayed. The initial HIP meeting will be to bring councillors up to date with what happened previously and explain how it could go ahead. We were then hoping to have an open meeting on the HIP, but I would also proposed at the annual town meeting to draw a tourism forum and get all the stakeholders here in the Guildhall and to have that. One was held several years ago, probably 3-4 years ago, by Craig McKinley MP.
A traffic forum.
He held a traffic forum in this Guildhall. I believe we had it in the jewellery room. Was it in the jewellery room?
We had one there, but we also had the second one that he was supposed to chair but couldn't. That Councillor Chandler and Councillor Holloway had to take over at the last minute. That was a forum with the police, schools, absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
Every stakeholder was involved in that. And the minutes came from Councillor Chandler's office, I believe, but they were not very full minutes, and we didn't have the actions never got sort of carried through. But I mean, I think the HIP report itself has got to be, it's a document which is a live document, it's got to be understood and it's got to be updated each year and put before KCC so that they can start at least being involved in things that the town want.
Exactly. So if the HIP report actually said that we want KCC to do something about speeding, then they've got to come back to us with either an officer's report or some sort of solution that can be taken forward, even if this council had to pay for it. So, but I don't believe that so Councillor Marie has to be discounted because of his reasons, and then if it comes up at this committee, then it'd have to come up as a separate item. but not as these two reports.
Yeah.
I'll just
Just
take one more
briefly
question.
on speeding, I think we find that the local police officer has been doing quite a bit more on setting up speeding checks and so on. So I think she's had three I think so far, and that may be, you know, if that starts to get the message through, that's fine. But they can't be everywhere, and it all depends on the time of day. I mean,
and they're not available at the time of day actually.
well, I
That's
don't know. I
speaking.
think she's done some slightly unusual hours. Maybe we ask her on when she comes next time. It is to tell us where and when she had them, not where she's going to do them. But I think she's been fairly proactive in that one. And of course, it's all mainly locals that get done. But there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you
that's
very
always
much.
the case.
Thank you very much for that, councillors. I'd now like to close the meeting at 8:14 and thank you all for your input this evening and your intuition. Thank you very much for that. That's very kind of you.